be screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of, What If Issei, Rias meet Uchiha. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Liquid's wrath on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. The moment after Madara spoke with Hashirama one final time as his last breath was leaving his body and his vision was fading, Hashirama gave him one last smile as the legendary Uchiha's eyes closed forever. Shortly after, the rest of the resurrected shinobi were also disappearing alongside the Sage of the Six Paths. Madara awoke to the feeling of water underneath him before he stood up to see he was in a place where everything was dark and the floor was covered in water. He looked around, but everything was too dark to see. Where am I? Is this supposed to be hell? Madara asked himself. You are in the afterlife, reincarnation of Indra, Hagoromo said as he was floating behind him with a casual expression. Madara spun around quickly to see an old man before him, but he was powerless to do anything against him as all of his strength and powers were gone the moment he died. Is this supposed to be my hell? I don't know who you are, but if this is supposed to be my hell where it's an endless void, then you can do better than that. He said as he crossed his arms over his chest while staring at the man with an intense glare. Hagoromo smiled at Madara as he finally got the chance to speak with him after all this time. Madara Uchiha, the place you are in is definitely not hell as I have taken you to a place where I can speak with you. And as for who I am Hagoromo Otsutsuki, also known as the Sage of the Six Paths. Madara's eyes widened a little bit. What is the Sage of the Six Paths doing here talking with me? What are you scheming, old man? Well, Madara. After I have observed you for a very long time as the reincarnation of Indra, I have noticed how much you truly wanted to give the people of the world a life to be exempt from pain, suffering, and emptiness, but the way you have done it was not how it was supposed to go. That is why I want to help you change and remove that cycle of hate within, just like how Sasuke and Naruto did. You will be reborn as this second chance at life will be my greatest gift to you. Redeem the sins you have piled up. Even though you became the Sage of the Six Paths and put everyone under the infinite Tsukuyomi, I am still willingly giving you a second chance to break the curse that was placed upon you. He said. So you're just going to bring me back to life then? After everything I did, you're still giving me a second chance? Madara asked. Hagoromo nodded. I am, but not in the elemental nations. Madara was confused. Then what do you mean then? Where are you taking me? To a world that is far more different, the world you grew up in, as this world has lost itself and the people have given up. The world you will be in will look and feel completely foreign to you as the world functions far more differently than how the elemental nations do. There are rules that more strict in this world where you cannot break or bend in any way. Hagoromo explained to him. Hagoromo's explanation has left him confused as he had no clue what he was going on about. Why are you even bothering giving me another chance at life? I might not follow your rules as I could try to do the same thing in this world you are talking about. Besides, I am tired of living in constant fighting and war as I have lived and died multiple times that it is starting to tire me. Hagoromo could see the emptiness in Madara's eyes as he was tired. You may think like that, Madara. You have lived a life that was filled with loneliness and suffering. You are the ghost of the Uchiha that was relentless and brutal, but before all that, you were a kind and a heartfelt person. Just like Sasuke, you still hold on to the past. Hashirama and Nizuna are two of the most important memories that shows me that you hold on to a past with regret. He explained to him. Madara's fists tightened up, but he didn't say anything to him. Seeing you in this state reminds of my, Indra. I believe that if the endless cycle of hate between my two sons could end with Sasuke and Naruto, then that endless cycle of hate is possible to end with you. That's enough, for now. It's time for you to depart the afterlife once again, Madara. There will be many hardships and struggles that will come your way, but always remember this. Don't lose your path. Hagoromo said before he tapped the water with his staff that transported Madara away. Madara woke up as he from the ground. He looked at his hands as he could feel that he was alive again, but he quickly realized the sage was really being serious about bringing him back. He looked up to see different buildings and weird things on the road moving. He was confused and impressed at the same time. Where in the hell am I? He asked as he walked forward a little. As Madara looked around he saw that people were giving him strange looks. He was looking at the different items of clothing they were wearing. Civilians walked past him while giving him weird glances. What is that man wearing? A woman asked her husband. Ha 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 ha, this guy is probably dressing up as some samurai warrior. A teenager said. Madara ignored the people that were making fun of him. He looked around for anything that would help him grasp the situation or to at least gain some type of information before progressing. I need to figure out where I am. What did that bstrd do? He said as he was walking down a sidewalk. Madara walked around endlessly, looking at the weird place he was sent to. What is this strange and bizarre place? There are eyes everywhere with every turn you take. Children playing amongst each other with smiles and joy. No sign of worry or fear as everyone doesn't look frightened or even remotely scared as they are moving along with their mundane lives. I haven't seen anything like this. He spoke to himself. I should just get my bearings first and observe the situation first. I don't want to bring attention to myself without knowing the possible attack strength of others. Madara was walking and wasn't paying attention when he bumped into someone. Hey! Watch where you're going. The young female stopped what she was going to say when she looked up to see who was the person who bumped into her, but the moment she did, she noticed how rigid his expression was. She was too terrified to even finish her sentence as he looked like he was controlling her life with strings the way he was glaring at her. Madara didn't want to bother with her as this was holding him up. Out of my way, child. Madara said as he pushed her aside and kept on walking. She fell to the ground as she glanced up at him. Child. I'm not a child. Hey. Where do you think you're going? You can't just leave after pushing someone. Why don't you apologize for what you just did? Madara dealt with enough children that were always picking fights where they didn't belong, so he decided ignore her than to converse with someone who will hold no significance to him. He kept on walking, thinking about where he is and what to do. The young girl couldn't stand him ignoring her, so she got up and caught up to him, getting in front of him. She slammed her hand against his chest to make him stop in his place that caused him to stop. He kept his eyes forward without looking at her. What do you think you're doing? Are that heartless to make a simple apology for shoving me to the ground? Do you have some type of stick up your butt or something? Madara's eyes shifted downwards as his left eye that was the only visible eye to be seen narrowed from how annoying this woman was. Madara was about to grab her neck and snap it right here to just end this endless annoyance, but he didn't go through with it as this place was all new to him, so if he were to kill here and now, then he wouldn't know the outcome of it. Hello. Are you going to apologize or what, weirdo? I'm not going to stand here all day and wait for you to do something as I have other important things I can be doing now. She said. If you have other better things to do, then why are you even here conversing with me? You don't need an apology from me because the one who needs an apology is me, as your endless annoyance has angered me just like how children don't know their place. You're acting just like those type of children that always reach to places that they shouldn't. Madara walked up to her that caused her to back up until her back hit against a wall. She could see how close he was as he hovered over her with the menacing look she saw earlier. All I'm asking for is for an apology. You don't have to do this. I pity the weak, but I despise children like you. Madara turned away from her and left her. Her teeth clenched up after hearing those words. She gave up on chasing him, so she started running towards a church. That bstrd thinks of me as a child. I am going to kill him, as I will make him bow before me and apologize to me 100 times before he can die. She declared as she headed towards the church. Scene break. Madara made it to a park where there was many people walking past him as he was sitting down and leaning against a tree with his right knee up and his left laying down. He had his right arm over his right knee that was like a armrest. He was looking towards the center of the park to see many people so happy and joyful. He closed his eyes and started to meditate. Madara's subconscious. Old man, where did you take me? What even is this place? He asked. The world you are in holds many nations that either have problems with each other or are under civil war. The place you are in now is called Japan, where people have no special talents or abilities such as chakra control. They all live a peaceful and normal life without having to worry about catastrophic wars, but these people are all lost as they do not see what is hiding in the shadows. He said. Madara was still confused about the whole situation. Why did you bring me here? This place looks like a world I dreamed of, as everything is peaceful with no wars, no hate, and no despair. You are only seeing the outside shell of this world, as many people see what you are seeing. The world you see is filled with many disasters. I have sent you here because this world will help you redeem your sins, but also make you view the world in a different light, just like Hashirama explained to you. It is completely different from your world. Hagoromo said. Madara stayed quiet for a few seconds, as he didn't want to admit the fact that all the things he has seen and heard has made him think differently. How is this place different? He asked. You will come to see that on your own, as this journey you will begin will shape the world differently with you being here. I am not here to interfere with your journey, but what you do from here will result in having you be removed from hell and be placed with those who were close to you. Madara Uchiha. This world is in your hands, as it's nothing more than place where all of your sins and crimes placed into one place. Choosing either to wash those sins away from this world or pile more by destroying this world is your choice alone. Madara contemplated on his words. Live your life the way you want to now. I have brought you here to give you a second chance for redemption, to outdo your wrongs in your previous life. What a generous offer from you. You make it sound like that I don't get to have a say in this, Madara said unpleasantly. Madara turned to the side as Hagoromo began to speak. Your life here isn't really going to be that simple like where you once were. Your life here is not of an ultimate ninja that is at war with many nations, but as a teacher at Ko Academy. Madara looked over at him as he didn't like what he just heard. Why should I be teaching children? You said I should change and see how it is to live a life without war, but this doesn't feel like anything but me giving lectures to fools that honestly doesn't care about anything than themselves. That's just how children are. He said with annoyance. You see, Madara, you see others as weaklings and beings who can't truly fight for themselves. You need to see the other perspective of life and also to feel how it is to love again. Hagoromo said. Madara chuckled a little before it turned into full-blown laughter at hearing him say to love again. Apparently, the only love I had in my previous life was for my brother, but he was killed. There is no one in this entire world who I will fall in love with, as they all are nothing but mere fools that have no talent and constantly keep nagging at you. Madara said coldly. People change after a while, Madara, trust me. But do not worry, I have set everything for you in this new life of yours to make it much easier for you to move on. I have given you your own apartment, and other than that, you are going to have to work for everything else, since I used a lot of my power to grant you a second chance at life and making you a citizen of Japan. Hagoromo explained. Madara put his hand to his face as he began to shake his head. I guess Hashirama will always be a part of me wherever I go. I never saw how I am able to teach anyone anything like Hashirama did, since I hold so much hate and pain. But also view those who are weak unworthy of being taught anything. I truly saw something in you a long time ago and I can still see that. You have the power to bring others into your fold, use that to your advantage and bring others to help you remove the hate from you and start to love again. That is why I sent you to this world, to see a new perspective in life, but to also repent for those sins you have committed. I guess we will just see if that happens then, Sage of the Six Paths. After you truly see how life is and you live out your life here, then you will no longer suffer in this world. This is your punishment for everything you have done. Madara snickered. My punishment was the moment you brought me back from the dead. Back to reality. Curse that old man. Madara opened up his eyes to see it's completely dark out. Madara stood up and went to his apartment that the old man bestowed him with. After walking for some time and being lost for quite some time, he finally found his room and went straight in to go lay down on his bed. We will just have to see what this old man was saying and how different this world is, he said as he drifted off to sleep. Scene break. Madara woke up and stood up from his bed. He went to the bathroom to wash up, but was caught off guard to see how young he looked when he saw his reflection in the mirror. If he were to guess, he would be in his early 20s. He took off his armor and his clothes and got dressed into his Uchiha robe. It consisted of a blue high-collared, long-sleeve mantle that splits down the lower half. He had blue pants on as he had the Uchiha crest on the back as well. He also had bandages around his shins and he had his black ninja boots that covered most of his feet except for his toes. Madara grabbed the books on the table that the old man left, and he walked out of his apartment. He looked at the map of Kuo and started to walk. This was something he absolutely hated as he had to teach a bunch of students lessons. He always did things alone without teaching or training anyone, but him having to teach students wasn't on his to-do list. He was intrigued by all these new things he has never seen before in his entire life. He never saw houses that looked like fortresses. It was surprisingly calm and he could sense that there wasn't anyone ready to attack him like in the elemental nations. It felt odd to him on how peaceful this place was as no one recognized him or know about his past. Madara was walking down the road to the school as he looked at the books he was carrying. Japanese history, is that what I am teaching? History is one of my strongest suits that is a very important role in forming the future by not making mistakes like in the past. Without much delay, he approached the school he was supposed to teach at and looked at all the students. He was surprised that most of the students are females, there were rarely any males at his school. The veins on his body was beginning to show from how annoyed he was by this whole situation. He realized what the sage was planning the whole time when he brought him to this world. So he tells me to try and love again and he sends me to a school that is mostly filled with a good majority of females, how ugly. He started to walk to the office of the school, but as he was heading over there, he heard some of the females talking about him that he ignored. Oh, my God, is he a student? He looks so hot. One of the females said. I don't know and I hope not. A boy said. PSS off UF piece of SHT. A boy said with anger. Madara ignored them and kept on walking. Akino, do you feel that? Rias asked her queen. Yes, Rias, do you think he has a sacred gear? Akino asked with a smile. Rias looked out the window as she began to wonder on who just entered her school. Maybe, we will just have to see how it plays out, Rias said. Madara made it to the office as he passed all those students who were glancing over at him constantly. He walked in. Is this the head office? He asked with a blank expression. Indeed it is, please take a seat. Madara did as he was asked. So you are the new teacher we heard so much about. The principal said. You must have heard a lot about me then. How much information did that BSTRD tell you about me? Madara said as he was ready to kill him on the spot before he could get the chance to tell anyone about him. The principal was confused on what he was asking him. He could see how intense his eyes were by asking that question. Who are you talking about, sir? It says here on your resume that you have studied abroad for a few years and you have been recommended by a very important person in the educational world. Nothing much is said here about you. He explained. Madara's expression quickly shifted as he wasn't expecting to hear that. The answer was painfully clear that the sage helped out with everything. His background, power, and identity all have been kept quiet. Let's just get this useless thing over with. Oh, yes, here is your schedule and rule book of the school. You will be teaching class 2B and everything you need will be provided for you here at the school. You may go now. Madara stood up and left for his classroom. The classroom where he was gonna teach became rowdy and very talkative. Hey, who do you think our new teacher is going to be? A student asked as he was sitting on his desk. Don't know and I don't care, Ika said while reading a book. Yo Issei, do you know who it is? Matsuda asked. No, but I hope it's a hot teacher with big tips, Issei said as he closed his eyes thinking about it. Pervert, a girl said. The door slid open very slowly and Madara walked with a very impassive expression while he looked towards the students who were all acting like children. He didn't bother saying anything as began to write his name on the board, but someone raised their hand to ask a question, causing Madara to spin around quickly, throwing the chalk like a shuriken that nearly hit the student's hand, but he managed to lower his hand quickly enough. Everyone was shocked to see that he nearly killed someone with a piece of chalk. Old habits. Madara said without emotion. The students quickly regained their composures and they were surprised to see a young handsome man as their teacher. All the females blushed while the males gritted their teeth. My name is Madara Uchiha, I will be teaching this class from now on about Japanese history. If you have any questions ask now. Madara said. No one raised their hands because of the earlier incident. Alright, we can begin class now. Madara opened up his book. He was confused when he saw all these new things he never saw before in his life. I guess I need to improvise. Turn to page 65. He said and he started to walk around the class. Everyone did as they were told and they flipped to page 65. Hey, Issei, who the F is this guy? Matsuda asked in a whispered tone. Issei looked at him and he shrugged his shoulders. I don't know. Madara caught the chatter as he walked over to location of the chatter and smacked Issei with the book. This world is filled with childlike people. They always act like a spoiled brat who get involved in things they aren't supposed to get involved with. If I were to be given a chance, I would remove every type of person who is just like you, boy. You can't just hit a student. Teachers are not allowed to do such a thing. Issei said. Madara didn't listen and he smacked him again. Hey! He yelled this time. Madara turned around and started to walk to the front of the class until someone threw a book at him. Madara didn't look away from his book and he caught it. The entire class was shocked. If anyone else wants to stand up and do something foolish or disrupt class, then do so now because if anyone disrupts class in the future, you will be severely punished. I won't hold back like any other type of lecturer. He said as he looked around the class. No one did anything. Good, let us get back to our studies now. After the class has ended everyone went to go get lunch and some went to go do perverted things. Madara kept on reading the book more as he needed to learn more about this nation he was in. He was intrigued by the book. He never knew that Japan had multiple wars or it had an emperor. He was interrupted by a student at his door. Excuse me, are you Mr. Uchiha? The student asked. Yes, and who might you be? Madara asked as he closed the book. Sorry, my name is Kiba. He said. I don't care what your name is, what do you want? Madara asked. Kiba wanted to keep a good expression. Well, my club president wants to speak with you. Madara stood up. Always talking, I was never one meant for talking, but go on, lead the way. Kiba nodded and gestured for him to follow. As they approached the door, Kiba opened it and the both of them walked in. "Ah, hello Mr. Uchiha, please sit," Rias said as Akino blushed at how handsome he looked and Kaneko just had a neutral expression. Madara didn't want to sit down again, but he didn't want to listen to her either. "I rather stand," he said. "Alright then, do you know why I called you here?" she asked. "Listen, if you sent someone to get me and bring me here and then you ask me, why am I here, you must be extremely unwise, as that question alone shows me how your intellect really is. It's equivalent to me breaking your neck and then asking you, do you know why I did it? I am getting tired of being told what to do, so let's get this stupid and useless conversation over with," Madara said with a bored expression as he crossed his arms. Rias was a little embarrassed and a little mad at what he said. "That doesn't matter now, do you know about the supernatural?" she asked. "Supernatural? I am talking about like devils, angels, and fallen angels," she asked. "I see, no, I don't know about the supernatural." "Why do you ask?" Madara asked. Rias looked at him to see if he was lying, but the way he was standing along with his rock-solid expression was strong to tell if he was or not. "Well, I have felt that there is something strange about you." "Do you own a sacred gear?" Rias asked. "Sacred what?" Madara asked. "If you don't know what a sacred gear is, then what are you?" Rias asked. "I am 100% human." "What type of stupid questions are you asking me, woman?" he asked. "They are not stupid questions." Rias raised her voice a little. Era, there is no way you are human," Akino said. "I am human and nothing will change that." Rias looked over to Kiba and Kiba nodded. Kiba pulled out his sword and charged at Madara. Kiba swung down with his sword and Madara caught it with both hands. "Is this how you treat guests every time? If you attacked first, then I will respond as well," he said as he knocked the sword out of his hands and he grabbed his neck. Kiba was struggling to get out of his grip. "Let him go, Mr. Uchiha." But Madara didn't obey her command as his grip tightened. Kiba began to flail his hands and feet around to try to get out of his grip. "He attacked, so I had to respond as well, because if you don't know what this is called, it's called self-defense. It is common knowledge if someone tries to attack you, but you're telling me to let him go after he tried to strike first. You must be incredibly foolish to think that letting someone go after they tried to take my life. We were only testing out if you were actually human or not," Rias said. Madara let go of Kiba and he fell to the ground holding his throat while coughing as well. "No human could catch his sword like that, you have to be something at least," Akino said. Madara returned to crossing his arms again. "If you say that I am not human, then what are you then?" Rias and her peerage looked at each other, then they all looked at him. "We are devils," Rias said. Madara stared at them. "Please tell me you're joking," he asked. Rias and the rest of them spread their wings. "I'm afraid not," she said. So that old man wasn't joking about that. This world is different, interesting, he thought. This has gotten even more interesting than I thought. That BSTRD has put me in a world that is filled with liars and strange creatures that humans don't know of, he said as he walked out of the club room. "Hey! Where do you think you're going?" Rias asked, but she didn't get a response. Akino looked over towards Rias. "Do you think you will rat us out?" "I hope not," Rias said. Scene break. Madara was walking home while reading the book he had when he was teaching the class. "This is truly remarkable," he said astoundingly. "Will you go out with me?" a girl asked. Madara looked up from his book to see Issei and the girl he bumped into earlier. "Are you kidding?" "Of course, I will," Issei said. "Alright, here is my number." She gave him her number and she started to run off. "Wait, what is your name?" he asked. She stopped and turned around. Yuma Amano. She said as she turned back around and ran again. Issei was jumping up and down, he turned around quickly not realizing who he bumped into. Watch where you go dash. Issei looked up and stopped what he was gonna say. Madara's cold gaze could freeze time by looking into his eyes from how cold and distant they looked. It was like looking at a god who was looking down at humans with that stance and gaze, but Issei didn't know what to do after bumping into him. Why don't you finish that brat, or maybe I should finish it for you? Madara suggested. No, sir, I will watch where I go next time, Issei said as he marched off like a soldier. Madara just stared at him. Children are always around you everywhere you go. Am I right? Hashirama? He said as he touched the left side of his chest where Hashirama's face used to be. Madara looked back down at his book and started to walk again. As he began to walk, he came across a crosswalk and he stopped. Look who showed up. It's the guy who can't and won't apologize to me for shoving me to the ground. I don't know why you are here of all places, but if you're here, then I guess you can try to apologize to me again. Madara didn't look away from his book. And you're that woman who won't shut up. He said as he turned a page. She wasn't even surprised to hear him say that to her. Why don't you just apologize and we will go our separate ways? It shouldn't be so strong to say two simple words. I don't know what problems you have, but you will force me to act if you don't apologize to me for what you did. Madara didn't want to deal with her anymore as he looked straight at her. What is that? He pointed behind her. She looked behind her and saw nothing, so she turned back around to see him completely gone. I am surrounded by idiots. Madara said as he kept on walking and was stopped by a group of thugs. Where do you think you're going, huh? Madara didn't look away from his book. I am just going home, so move out the way. Seems like we got a tough one here, boys. You forgot to say please. The thug tried to punch him, but he just moved his head back and the thug just punched his buddy. Why you? The thug tried to punch him again, but his hand was caught. Madara still didn't look away from his book. Why do arrogant people try to annoy people that didn't do anything wrong? Is it maybe because they are insignificant to society that they need to leave an impression by harming those underneath them? Or is it the fact that they are absolutely worthless in the eyes of millions that even the world doesn't care about them in the slightest? He asked as he broke the thug's arm. The second thug pulled out a knife and he tried to stab him, but he was disarmed. What the hell? Madara grabbed the knife and stabbed him straight in the neck. The last thug ran away, screaming for his life. Madara turned the page and he started to walk again. How ugly, they weren't suitable dance partners. Unknown to him, the girl witnessed the whole thing go down. As he approached his home, he opened up the door and walked in. A long day today, but tomorrow is gonna be hell. Madara set down his books and looked over to the corner of his room to see his gunbai sitting there. He walked over to it and saw a letter sitting on it. You will be needing this for the upcoming future. Madara had a smile. UDMNBSTRD. Madara laid down on his bed and drifted off to sleep. Madara woke up from his slumber. This is just great, another boring day I must endure. He said as he got up. Can there be something interesting I can do? He asked himself as he put a hand to his chin. Wait a minute, those brats said that they're devils. So there must be something they can offer. Madara removed his hand away from his chin and had a sinister smile. Well, I guess I will just have to have some fun with them in the future. He said. Madara got ready and opened up his book and left his apartment and locked it and started to walk to school. He came to the same crosswalk and stopped. He flipped his page and kept on reading. Hey, there dummy, Yuma said. What the hell do you want, brat? He asked her as he was still looking at his book. Okay, first, why don't you stop looking at that book and look at me when I am talking to you? She said. Yeah, I will get right to that, Madara said as he walked away from Yuma and ignored her. Yuma was a little shocked to see him ignoring her. Hey! Don't just walk away like that. She caught up to him and snatched the book away from him. Madara looked up at her. Yuma was a bit surprised that he didn't whine like a baby over it. Give me that book now. He said casually. No, I will not. She said with a smile. Very well then. Madara grabbed her throat and raised her in the air. Do you want to dance? He asked. ICCCCA. B. Yuma tried to say something but his grip tightened. Hand me the book now. He said. Yuma handed the book to him and he grabbed it. He threw her aside and he opened up his book and started to read again. Yuma coughed a little. She took a big breath and exhaled slowly. You could have killed me, you worthless human. She yelled. But Madara kept on ignoring her. Madara reached his destination and he opened up the door to the classroom. Good morning, brats, open up your books and get out your notebooks. He said as he closed his book. The students did as they were told. Issei was thinking about tips but not hearing what he was told. Madara walked over to his desk and hit his desk. So Issei, what were you thinking about, huh? Does it involve women? He asked. Issei stood up fast. No, sir. He yelled. Oh, then what were you thinking about then? How great of a teacher you are, sir. He yelled again. Madara just stared at him for a couple of seconds. Shut the hell up, brat, I know you weren't thinking such things. He said as he smacked him in the back of the head. Issei grabbed his head and sat down. I am sorry, sir. He said. Madara turned around and went to his desk. Let us begin. Scene break. Rias was sitting down at her desk. Akino, soon we will have to confront that fallen after Issei's date. She said. Akino smiled. Well, I can't wait to punish them. She said with a sadistic smile. Rias was looking through some papers until she heard a knock on the door. Come in. She said. The doors opened up and Sona walked in. Hello Sona, what can I do for you? She asked. Rias, are you going to deal with the fallen angel or will I have to? She said. Well, straight to the point then, huh? Rias said. Well, we will soon, right after the date Issei is having. She said. I see, very well then, Sona said as she turned around and started to walk away but stopped and she turned around. What will we do about the new teacher? She said. Rias put her hand on her chin. Why don't we get your brother Rias? Akino said. No Akino, this is not a matter that my brother should deal with, Rias said as she stood up from her seat. Then what should we do then? Akino asked. I do not know, but we will have to wait till that time comes. She said. Very well then Rias, Akino said as she went to go make tea. Sona, we better hope that new teacher isn't a threat, Rias said. Well, we must do something then, Sona said. Rias looked over to Kaneko. Kaneko, can you go follow the new teacher and report back in? She said. Kaneko nodded and she stood up and left the clubroom. Scene break. Madara was walking back home while reading the book he had. Those lousy brats are truly annoying. He said. As he was walking he came across a park with he stopped and looked over to see that girl that was annoying him and the failure of his class. Yuma walked up to Issei and whispered into his ear. Will you die for me? She said. Can you repeat that? Issei said. Yuma transformed and she was wearing an SM outfit. The date was nice but you are too dangerous to keep alive. She said as she formed a light spear and threw it at him. Issei fell to his knees holding his stomach trying to hold back the bleeding. "Wi" was all he said before he fell to the ground lifeless. Madara closed his book and walked out behind the tree. Oh, look what the cat dragged in the worthless human who nearly killed me. I am going to enjoy seeing you bleed out in front of me. Rainier said. Why did you kill him? You know he isn't worth anything. Madara said. Well, as you can see, I killed him because he had a sacred gear. He was too dangerous to keep alive. First off, what is a sacred gear? And second of all, no one harms my students and gets away with it. He said. And what can a pitiful human like yourself do? She said as she formed a light spear. I can do plenty of stuff just by myself. He said with a smile as he put his book on the ground. You talk big for a human. Well, dodge this then, she said as she threw her light spear at him. Madara moved to the side. Rainier spread her wings and took flight. Now you want to dance. Before you didn't want to. He said. Rainier made another light spear and threw it at him. Madara jumped back this time. Rainier gritted her teeth and formed a light sword and flew straight at him. He moved out the way and Rainier immediately turned around to cut him, but she realized that he was gone. Where did he go? She asked herself. Behind you, brat. He said. Rainier turned around and Madara grabbed her throat with one hand. It seems like you can't dance any longer. What a boring partner. He said. He let her go and started to walk over to Issei's body until Rainier spoke up. Is that it? Just a little scare tactic. I find that pretty lame from a human who dash. She stopped what she was gonna say when Madara turned around and she saw those crimson eyes that were bright. She couldn't speak nor move. She was shaking in fear. He started to move towards her slowly. Well then, let me show you the true nature of the Uchiha clan then. Madara was right in front of her staring into her eyes with his crimson ones. Don't tell me you're scared now. I was hoping you can dance longer but I was wrong. Madara said. Sharingan, Madara said as Rainier's eyes became crimson like his. Now tell me, you brat, who sent you? He asked her. Lord Azazel has told me to keep an eye on the boy to make sure he doesn't wake his sacred gear early. She said. I see, then where can I find this Azazel? He is located here in Kuo, he is the Governor-General of the Grigori. She said in a monotone voice. Tell me about these devils, angels and fallen angels I keep hearing about. Madara crossed his arms. The three factions had a war and the damage was too severe and many were lost. She said. A war, you say? Well then, it seems like we are the same in a way. He said. A magic circle appeared and Rias and her peerage came out of it. Rias looked over and saw the teacher with the fallen. Hey, you, what do you think you're doing? She asked. Madara turned around and looked at her. You want to dance too? He asked. Rias was surprised to see his eyes in a crimson color and so bright. Did you do this? Madara just stood there for a bit before replying. Let's dance. Was all he said. Madara charged at them and punched Kaneko in the gut. Rias ran back and used her power of destruction on him. Madara saw this coming with his eyes and moved out of the way. Kaneko came in to attack him but once again he saw it and dodged it. Impressive, but let's see if you can dodge this. Madara made a few hand signs. Fire style, fireball jutsu. A large fireball was going straight towards Kaneko but Akino stopped it with her lightning. Era, it seems like you aren't human after all, Akino said with a smile. Madara released the genjutsu on Rainier and she fell unconscious. Now let me tell you devils something. I am definitely human. Really now? What you did there doesn't look like a human could do. Rias said. Madara's eyes turned back to normal. Well, believe what you want to believe, but know this, I can destroy this town, the city in you if I so desire to, Madara said as he grabbed his book off the ground. I must go now, I don't want to waste time on brats like yourselves. Madara walked away, disappearing in the night. What was that, Rias? Kiba asked. I do not know. But I think I need to tell my brother about him. She said. But first let us get my new servant. She said as she put pawn pieces on top of him. What should we do about the fallen? Kiba asked. Rias turned around and saw that the fallen was gone. It seems like her allies got to her before we did, Kaneko said. Indeed, Rias said. Scene break. Madara was sitting on his bed thinking about what happened recently. Those annoying brats got in the way. He said. Well, the failure is dead and the prostitute is knocked out and those devils now think I am not human. Well, I don't care. It should make this more entertaining. Madara went over to his fridge to get something to snack on before going to sleep. Madara grabbed an apple and started eating it as he sat down. He stopped eating it and realized he forgot to ask about what sacred gears are. He clenched his fist and the apple broke into many pieces. Well, I will go ahead and ask those brats then tomorrow. He said as he laid down and fell asleep. Scene break. Madara entered the classroom and set down his books down on his desk. He looked around the classroom and saw Issei sitting in his seat. How is this possible? Do these devils have some type of reanimation jutsu? Madara crossed his arms and started to walk back and forth. Mr. Uchiha, can we start class please? A student said. Be a quiet brat. The student didn't say anything after that. Class is dismissed. He said as he walked out and headed straight towards the ORC. The whole class was shocked to hear that. Madara reached his destination and opened it without knocking. Rias and the others were a bit surprised to see him here. All of them got ready to attack him. Calm down, I am not here to fight but for some answers. He said. Rias didn't say anything as she just waited for him to continue. How is that failure still alive? Do you have some type of reanimation jutsu? Rias was standing there confused. Reanimation what? All I did was make him a devil and now he is my servant. She said. Madara crossed his arms again. You are disgusting. And all these are your servants then? Yes, they are. She said. Let us properly introduce ourselves first before we go any further. My name is Rias Gregory. She said as she started to point to the others. That is Akino Himejima, Kaneko Tuju, and Yudo Kiba. She said with a smile. My name is Madara Uchiha. Rias cleared her throat. Well, would you like to join my peerage? Rias asked. Ha 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 ha, I will never become a SLV to anyone in this world or hell nor heaven. He said. Well, what do you want to ask then? She said as Akino went to go make tea. What is a sacred gear? He asked. Well, why do you ask? She said. Just answer the stupid question. He said a little irritated. Alright then, a sacred gear is a weapon that has been created by God. There are 18 Longinus sacred gears that can kill God. And only humans are able to get a sacred gear. She said. Akino came out with the tea and handed it out to both Rias and Madara. Boring, says Madara. What do you mean boring? She asked confused. I was hoping for something bigger but that was so boring. I can't believe I wasted my time here. Madara stood up and walked out. Time skip. Issei was walking back home thinking about his dream he had. Who was that girl, he asked. He kept thinking and thinking but he couldn't get it down. I do not know. He said. Well, look at what we got here. A stray without its MSTR. How pitiful. A man said he was wearing a trench coat and a fedora. Who are you? Issei asked. The name is Donasek and I am your killer. He said as he made a light spear and threw it at him. Issei was too scared to move. He closed his eyes and waited for the spear to pierce him. After a while, he opened up his eyes and realized he isn't dead yet. You know, attacking my student is not really a smart thing to do, Madara said. Mr. Uchiha, Issei said, relieved that he is here. Who the hell are you? Are you his MSTR? Danasik asked. No, I would never be this failure's MSTR. He said. And as for who I am. Madara closed his eyes and opened them up, revealing his Sharingan. I am Madara Uchiha. Danasik was surprised to see his eyes go from black to crimson in just a blink of an eye. Who are you? He asked again. Like I said before, I am Madara Uchiha. Danasik raised his hand up and made a light spear. Do you honestly think that little twig of a spear can harm me? Madara asked. Of course, because a human like yourself is nothing compared to me. Now die. Danasik threw the light spear. Madara jumped over it and ran straight to him. Don't get cocky now, human. Danasik made another light spear and threw it again at him. Come on, show me a fight, not a dance recital. Madara jumped out of the way and moved his fist at Danasik's face, but he jumped back. Danasik started to get mad. Why won't you just die? He asked. You think that those weapons of yours can do anything to me? Madara jumped straight at him and kicked him in the gut. Danasik flew a couple feet from the kick, hitting his back against a tree. Danasik threw up some BLD. Boring, this is truly boring. You can't bring anything to the table, so I will just finish this. I will end your miserable life. Madara walked slowly towards Danasik. Let me ask you this. Do you feel fear? Madara asked as he was almost a few feet away from him. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. I feel fear. You must be stupid if you think I would ever fear a human. Danasik slowly got up. He stared into Madara's eyes. Then let me give you a first-hand experience of fear, Madara said with a sinister smile. I will never fear you. Danasik held his gut. Madara grabbed his neck with his right hand. Let me take you to a place where time is slowed. Madara closed his eyes, then opened them up slowly. Tsukuyami, Madara said, and the world changed around them. What is this place? Danasik looked around him and saw he was tied up. What the hell? What did you do to me? He asked. You are going to be here for 3 days, and in those 3 days you will experience hell. He said. Danasik tried to get himself untied, but he couldn't. Let me out of here. He demanded. Don't even bother, you can't escape, Madara said. Time and space are slowed down, and now let us begin. Madara grabbed a sword and plunged him in the gut. Danasik screamed in pain. It seems like this isn't enough. Madara said. Danasik blinked and saw more Madaras around him. What is this? How is there more of you? Madara didn't answer him, and he stabbed him again, and the other Madaras did the same. There were at least 50 swords in him. Breathe, and make it stop, please. He pleaded. Oh, are you begging to be spared? Don't make me laugh. You think that you can start a battle then beg to be spared? You're a fool. Madara stabbed him again. After 10 minutes Danasik was nearly dead. Is it over and now? He asked. Well, only 71 hours, 59 minutes and 59 seconds have passed, Madara said. Danasik looked at Madara with fear. No, let me out, I can't take it anymore. Madara removed the genjutsu from Danasik and they were back in the real world. Madara removed his hand from his neck and Danasik fell down lifeless from the immense torture on the mind. Issei was confused. He saw his teacher stare at the guy for like 10 seconds, then he just fell to the ground. Issei got up and slowly walked towards his teacher. Mr. Uchiha, are you alright? He asked. Madara turned around and looked at Issei. What is it, a failure? Issei was shocked to see that his eyes are now crimson. Mr. Uchiha, are you alright? He asked, scared a little. Madara walked up to Issei and put his hand on his shoulder. Go to that Gremory girl and she will give you answers. Madara took his hand off his shoulder and started to walk back home. As he was walking, his Sharingan faded away and his black eyes appeared. Is this all the world can offer? A prostitute and a pedo? How lame. Scene break. Issei was sitting down in class not paying attention. The reason why is because he was thinking about what happened last night. When that strange man attacked him and his teacher having crimson eyes. He couldn't think straight. Madara was writing on the board and explaining the lesson to them at the same time. Issei's friend Matsuda whispered to Issei to pay attention. PSSSST, Issei, pay attention before you dash. How about you shut up when I am teaching before I cram this book far down your throat, Madara said as he turned around. Yes, sir, Matsuda said as he went back to reading his book. Hey failure, if you don't pay attention I will make you hold buckets of water outside of the classroom. Issei looked over to his teacher and apologized. I am sorry, sir. Issei started to write down the notes on the board, but there was a knock on the door. Come in, Madara said as he looked at the door. The door opened up and Kiba walked in. All the girls were screaming and blushing when they saw Kiba walk in. Oh my god, Kiba is in our classroom. One of the females said as they couldn't contain themselves. Madara shut his book and looked at the classroom with serious eyes. If all of you women like to chase men, then don't do it when I am teaching the class. If this is an everyday thing, then what is the point in teaching if this school is filled with perverts and horny females? Madara said as he sat down at his desk. The whole class didn't say anything. They were too scared to say anything because if they did say anything then Madara would do something to them. Hello Mr. Uchiha, can I have Issei for a bit? My president wants to see him. Kiba said with a smile. Take the failure and keep him, Madara said with no care. Kiba nodded and Issei stood up and left the classroom. Class is dismissed, Madara said as leaned back in his chair. What do you mean the class is dismissed? Aika asked. You heard me, a brat, the class is dismissed. I can't teach a class that can't pay attention. He said. Now leave and don't come back until tomorrow. The whole class stood up and left the classroom. Time skip. Issei and Kiba reached the clubroom. Kiba opened the door for Issei and they both walked in. Hello Issei, my name is Rias Gremory and I am the president of the Occult Research Club. Please take a seat. Issei did as he was told and he sat down. I bet you're wondering about that girl Yuma. Forget about her Issei, she is not to be trusted. Rias said. What do you mean? And how do you know her? Issei was confused on how they knew her. She is a fallen angel and she killed you. And after that, I have revived you and now you are a devil. She said. Wait for what? What are you talking about? Am I a devil? That sounds stupid. He said. Well, let me show you. Rias and her peerage all stood in front of him and spread their wings. Issei's wings spread as well. What the hell? So it's true. He said. Yes, and you are my servant. She said. What? I am a servant, so that means I have to be beaten up if I don't listen. He asked. Oh no, I treat my servants like family, I won't do such things. She said. I see, but explain to me about Mr. Uchiha then. He asked. What is there to talk about? He is a person of mystery. Rias said. Well, when I was walking home I was attacked by a man. He had black feathered wings and when I thought I was going to die Mr. Uchiha saved my life. Wait, a fallen angel attacked you? Rias asked. What is a fallen angel? Issei asked. Well, fallen angels are angels who fell from heaven. They fell because of their lust. You see, there are three factions. There are angels, fallen angels, and devils. The devils have four leaders of the underworld, and there is the fallen who have Azazel as their leader. Rias said. I see, then who is the leader of heaven then? That would be God, of course. She said as she sat down in her chair. The war broke all three factions and there is only a handful of devils, angels and fallen angels, Rias said. Issei nodded. Then what do I do now? He asked. Well, you can do whatever, just don't go alone when it's dark because you are most likely to be attacked, Rias said. Alright then, may I go back to class? Rias nodded and Issei walked out. Do you think you will be alright, Rias? Aquino asked. We will have to see, Aquino. Time skip. Issei walked back to class. As he reached his classroom he opened the door and was surprised to see that the whole class was gone. Where is everyone? Madara didn't look at him. They left. Was all he said. And why would they leave? Issei asked as he was trying to figure out why they all left. I have dismissed class, that is why, Madara said as he was still looking at the book. I see. Issei made his way to his desk and sat down. It was quiet for a few minutes. Why don't you go do your usual perverted stuff? Madara asked as he turned the page. Well, if I did go you would just interfere with it, said Issei. Well, at least you have learned a lesson or two. Issei smiled nervously. So why do you always read that book? What's so special about it? This book has some interesting things about Japan, Madara said. You make it sound like you never even heard of Japan. Why don't you do something fun instead of reading that boring book? He asked. No, there is nothing in this world that is fun. Mostly everything is either perversion or something called video games. He said. I prefer to read, it relaxes the mind and makes you learn a thing or two. Then why don't you try to fall in love? I know you can find a woman. Issei said with a smile. Madara looked up at him and narrowed his eyes. Love is not necessary, power is the only true necessity. So you only care for power? Without love you are empty. Issei said. Madara stood up from his desk and walked to the door. Remember this. The longer you live the more you realize reality is just made of pain, suffering, and emptiness. When you are in love you must accept the fact that there will be pain, hatred and most of all despair. He said. And love is something I lost a long time ago and I will not be dragged down by love. Madara walked out of the classroom and started to leave the campus. Well, whatever you went through, I will not become like you, Mr. Uchiha. Issei reached for his bag and started to pack up his notes and pencils. As he was doing this there was a knock on the door. Come in. Excuse me. Do you know where Mr. Uchiha went? She asked. He just left, Issei said as he stood up and left the classroom. Sona turned around and left the classroom. Scene break. Madara was sitting on top of a hill with one knee up and his left one laying down. He had his right arm resting on his knee that was up while his left hand was supporting him. The wind blew and his hair was moving with the wind. What a peaceful night. Madara looked up at the moon. Where have I went wrong? Tell me, Hashirama. It's you. Madara turned around and narrowed his eyes. I swear I can't have at least 10 minutes of peace. He said as he looked out towards the city. I am gonna kill you this time, but I brought some help this time. The girl said. Listen here, prostitute, I don't have time. My name is Rainair and I am not a prostitute, I am a being far above you human. I will enjoy killing you. She said as she made a light spear. The other two females did the same. Come on now. Do your little eye thing or are you too scared? Rainair said. Madara stood up and turned around looking at the three females. He crossed his fingers and two Madaras appeared. It seems that I must renew this world as well. Let us dance again. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Liquid's Wrath on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.